So the strategy would be at least a short-term debt ceiling increase. That way they can work on some of the other spending fights and then come back to the debt ceiling perhaps in a few months, though. McCarthy says he's not sure when the timing of that vote would be. He only says sooner rather than later. Back to you.
Rich Edson and Windy of Williamsburg. Thank you, Rich. Now, Patrick Millsap says Republicans need to come out of this retreat with a message that resonates with working people. And Christy Setzer says Williamsburg's just group therapy for the Republicans. And Patrick was the chief of staff for Newt Gingrich's presidential campaign. Christy used to be Al Gore's press secretary. So this is the spectrum represented right here. I guess, Christy, I'll allow you to go first, maybe just for a little bit of fun. Group therapy seems a little strong, but what do you mean by that?
Well, look, after the election, we were told that Republicans were going to do some soul searching for the fact that record low numbers of minorities had voted for them. What we're seeing now is, I actually just heard it a few minutes ago on your program, that half the country holds a negative view of the Republican Party, and the Tea Party is having its lowest level ratings in history as well. So this is a party right now that is in some serious trouble. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem as though they are taking a very serious approach to addressing the issues in front of the country. It's good that they've had a good first step in agreeing to, on the debt ceiling, but that seems like to be only a first step.
Let's talk about that, Patrick, because, no matter what you call it or how you slice it, there seem to be some issues in the Republican Party after the election. Now that they're on this retreat, whether it's, the reports of coming up with some sort of short-term debt ceiling deal, but bigger picture, what should the priorities be in your view, somebody inside the party?
Well, first, if there wasn't group therapy, I hope there was shock therapy, so that anytime anybody said the word rape, they just shocked the whole thing. Wow. So that we can get away from that tendency that somehow in members of our Congress. I think the polling on the Republican Party is focused on Washington, which is very interesting since we're a party that focuses on states. Right. And while there's a negative view of the Washington Republicans, we need to start focusing on the success that Republicans have in the states. I mean, John Avalon wrote a great piece. Well, no, and that's and we'll talk about that. But I mean, Chris Christie's getting all the attention. But John Avalon wrote a great article today about how the number of minority governors at the Republican Party far exceeds the Democrats, and it's not just because of ethnicity, but these people like Nikki Haley, Bobby Jindal, Suzanne Martinez, they're doing great things in their states. And if you look at the economic health of the red states, the safety of the red states, we have our party problem is that we have a very deep bench, and we don't go to those
it's funny
A
because
players.
We were talking with Dan Hediger yesterday at the Wall Street Journal, and his point, his column has been widely read by now, is that the GOP needs its own Jay Carney, needs a spokesperson to put on TV to speak for the party. But Christy, Patrick brings up some good points that there are messages, you may not see it this way, but there are messages in there for the Republicans that I'm sure would be very appealing to people, but not a lot of them get out. What do you make of that from your side?
I would agree with that. I think that, look, if we're talking about the things that were addressed at the Republican retreat, this is pretty basic stuff. I mean, if you have to be told not to say stupid things about rape, that's pretty basic. If you need to be told not to insult women and minorities, if you have to be told that, let's not put our country into bankruptcy by, putting us into default, then maybe you shouldn't be holding elected office right now.
There are extreme elements on the other side of it as well, but those Republican extreme elements get a lot more focus sometimes, it seems like, for whatever reason. Patrick, you changed the subject quickly, I noticed, when I brought up Chris Christie, who seems to be, and Christy Setzer thinks that's funny, but it's funny because, ever since Hurricane Sandy, there have been some conservatives, Republicans, that haven't been huge fans of Chris Christie, and I wonder how that'll play out over the next few years. I'm sure I'm not sure, but there's a lot of speculation he'd like to be president. Is that the way the party goes, or do they go in a completely different direction, do you think?
I think the Washington Journal article is I do agree to a point that we need a messenger, but we also need a message delivery system. I mean, the Republican Party has been complaining about the mainstream media as if it's going to change because they complain about it. Right. It is what it is, and so the fact that Chris Christie has been focused on is quite frankly because all the cameras have been focused on. And Chris Christie's doing, he's said some things that I might not agree with, but he's doing a fine job as a governor of New Jersey. He's a good example. But if we have a messenger, we also need a message delivery system. I mean, the Democrats in the Obama campaign, I know some people in the Obama campaign. I mean, they are able to get messages down to individuals. I call it micro-politicking.
Right.
And so instead of just complaining about the mainstream media, hey, let's buy some ads. Let's buy some infomercials, not even necessarily on news networks. Let's put it on, Discovery Channel and talk about our messages. Explain to people the reason that they got a short paycheck this first time around is because of spending problems and tax raises. So let's not rely on the people that just own the cameras. Let's buy the cameras.
All right, Patrick Millsaps and Christy Setzer, we got to go right now, but that's a good start to the discussion. We'll continue to cover what's coming out of Williamsburg. Thanks to both of you guys.
Thanks for
having me, please.